Hi everybody, thanks for joining me for core yoga today. My name is Erica and I'm with UMBC Recreation. If you are new to this class, you do not have to be familiar with yoga poses. The class is meant to be challenging, however. If you don't find it challenging, that's awesome, but if you do, I want you to know that it's okay to take rest and take breaks. We'll take several scheduled rest periods throughout the class, but just know that you're more than welcome to take those positions at any time, whether I cue it or not. If you're completely new to yoga, I do like to point out at the end of the practice, after our cool down, we end in a final rest period. We lay flat on our back with our eyes closed for about 3 minutes. Part of that, the purpose for that is to absorb the benefits of the class and to just let the body rest. We're gonna be putting a lot of motions and movement in the body. It needs a time to reset. But even more importantly than that, it is a time for self-reflection. Yoga is not just about the movements we put in our body, it's about getting to know ourselves better. It's a time to just be still with yourself, reflect on what's going on in your life, reflect what's going on in your day. So I do like to point that out. It's a little different than other exercise classes, but it's so vital for our mental health. Before we get started, I want to remind everyone to always listen to your body, take breaks if you need to, as I reminded. Sometimes I'll offer modifications to make things a little easier or harder. So listen to yourself, listen to your body, and always check with your doctor before you start a new exercise plan. Today we're going to get started laying down flat on our back. So start in a seated position in the center of your mat with your feet facing forward. Then just mosey on down onto your back. You can place your hands on the back of your thighs and ease your way down that way. However you can get flat to your back. And place your arms along the floor, palms face up at shoulder height. Help to open the front of the chest. Deepen the breath a little bit here, filling up the chest and the belly. Kind of settle onto your mat. And draw both knees in towards your chest, keeping low back pressed to the mat. Helping to lengthen the low back as we still open the front of the chest. Gently tuck your chin in towards your chest. Help to lengthen the back side of the neck. Wiggle shoulders away from the ears. Turn your head to the right, looking out over your right shoulder. And slowly turn your head to look out over left shoulder. Then another time or two back and forth, loosening up the muscles in the neck. Finish gazing up towards the ceiling, chin lined up with the center of the chest. Extend your left leg onto the mat and release the fingers and hold below the bent knee, drawing thigh close to body, flexing both feet right into Apanasana. Still working with the low back here, a bit with the hip flexor. If you feel any discomfort on the knee, you can hold on to the back of the thigh instead, drawing the thigh close to the body that way. And gently start to rock the bent knee side to side, starting to work with the hips a bit here. We'll have a bit of a focus on hips today with our core work. So start to loosen up the hips. Then start to make some circles with the hips, as if you're drawing lines with the knees, making circles and reversing direction. Find stillness with the knee drawn in towards the chest. Actively press your left leg onto the mat with foot flexed. Nice engaged leg. Place your hands on the back side of the right thigh if they're not there already. And start to press out through the heel, extending the leg up towards the ceiling. Maybe the legs are tight and the knee does not straighten completely. That's okay. You can work here. Or maybe the hamstrings are a little looser and leg starts to straighten towards the ceiling. Just know that knee can stay bent if you need some ease. Pressing out actively through both heels, pressing low back flat to the mat. Then drawing right knee back in towards the chest and extending the leg onto the mat. Draw the left knee in towards the chest, Apanasana, holding below the knee or on the back of the thigh. Feet are flexed. Thigh draws close to body. Gently start to rock the legs side to side, starting to open the hip. Then start to make some circles, drawing imaginary lines in the air with the knees. Reversing direction. And slowing down to stillness. Actively press right leg into mat, both feet are flexed. Hands are on the back of the left thigh, if not there already, as leg starts to extend up towards the ceiling. Holding here, pressing out through the heels. Nice, even breaths. Then draw left knee back in towards the chest, straighten the leg onto the mat. Draw both knees in towards the chest, feet side by side, holding below the knees, drawing thighs close to body. Then place your hands on the back side of your thighs, start to rock forwards and backwards, gaining momentum until we can rock ourselves up into a seated position facing forward. Ground your sits bones onto the mat and find some length out through the crown of your head. If it's not comfortable for you to sit with legs crossed, you can take a loose diamond shape with the legs, bottom of the feet together instead. Whichever position you're in, place your hands at your sides, fingertips to floor. Round the spine, dropping your chin to chest. Then slowly lift and arch the spine, tilting head up towards the ceiling. Rounding the spine, chin drops back to chest. Lifting and arching, gazing up to ceiling. Few more times at your own pace, loosening up the spine, the shoulders, the neck. Then find stillness with the spine upright towards the ceiling. Turn your chest to face the left side of your mat into spinal twist. Left hand placed directly behind you, right hand directly in front. Core is engaged, belly button's drawing in towards the spine. Gaze is towards the back of the mat. Slowly untwist the spine, face forward, hands at your sides. Then spinal twist to the right, gazing towards the back of the mat. Spine stays long, core is engaged. Nice deep breaths into the chest. And slowly unwind and face forward. Rock forward, coming onto the hands and the knees into tabletop position, wrists stacked under the shoulders, knees stacked under the hips. Extend the right leg behind you, pressing out through the heel, toes down towards the floor, heel in line with hip. Then left arm extends forward into sunbird, thumb is face up towards the ceiling, gaze is down, at the floor. Holding here, starting to warm up our core as we practice and challenge our balance. We're actively reaching forward with the hand, actively pressing out through the heel. Belly draws in towards the spine. Then meet me back in tabletop, hands and knee to the mat. Left leg extends, pressing out through the heel in line with the hip. Right arm extends forward, thumb face up, sunbird, holding here, not holding the breath. Waking up our core. Meet me back in tabletop on the hands and the knees. Round the spine, cat pose, tuck chin to chest. Lift and arch the spine, cow pose, gazing up to ceiling. Return to tabletop, back flat. Same thing, right leg extends, left arm forward. Holding for just 5 seconds this time. Bring just the hand down to the mat, lift up to the tips of your fingers. Now point through the tips of your toes. Draw right knee in towards your chest into tabletop crunch. Round the spine, lift away from the mat, lift the knee in towards the body, then step or place the foot into lunge in between the hands, ankle below the knee. Draw the breath in through your nose, lift right arm up to the ceiling, into twist. Gaze is up, exhale here. Take a few breaths here into the twist. Stretching and engaging the core, opening the chest. Forward foot is flat to the mat. Thigh stays close to the body. On your next exhale, fingertips come down to the mat. And slowly lift both arms out in front, up overhead, and hold here. Core is engaged. Ribs are reaching and tucking down towards the hips. We're opening and lifting the front of the chest. Breathing into the chest. On your next exhale, fingertips come down to the mat. Extend your forward leg long behind you, point through the toes, and return to tabletop. Left leg extends, start pressing out through the heel. Right arm extends forward, holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Just the hand comes down to the mat, lift up to tips of fingers, point through the tips of the toes. On your exhale, tabletop crunch, knee to chest around the spine, lift that knee nice and high, then step or place the foot into lunge. Draw the breath in through the nose, lift left arm up to ceiling, and exhale here. Lifting left ribs nice and high towards the sky. As you exhale, hand returns to the mat. Next breath in through the nose, lift both arms overhead. Exhale here. Engage the core. Lower ribs want to touch the hips, hips want to touch the ribs. Open the front of the chest. Gaze is slightly up. On your next exhale, fingertips come back to the mat. Extend the forward leg long behind you, point through the toes, and meet me in tabletop. Plant your hands flat to the mat. Turn your fingertips to face out towards the long edges of the mat. And gently rock side to side, starting to loosen up the wrist here. Prepping us for some planks later in the class. Turn the fingertips forward once again, then gently rock forwards and backwards. Turn the fingertips towards the knees, and we'll just hold steady here. If you're feeling a little too much sensation, you can draw the knees in closer towards the hands. You'll find some ease that way. Then return the fingertips facing forward. Walk the knees back out if you inch them in. If you're already feeling pretty uncomfortable on the wrist, When we get to planks later, you can try taking planks on your fist instead with thumbs facing one another. Just something to keep in mind. Lower down to puppy pose, bringing elbows down to the mat, stacked under shoulders, palms face down to floor. Let the head hang heavy so you can gaze between the knees. And take a few breaths here as we lengthen the spine. Settle into child's pose. Bring the tops of feet to mat. Hips all the way down to the heels, forehead pressed to the mat. Separating the knees enough to make space for your belly, but keep the toes touching. And we'll finish our warm up here with a little bit of stillness and conscious breathing. If you're uncomfortable in your hips or your knees here, try puppy pose instead. Either pose will do, whichever works best and feels best in your body. Take another deep breath or two. And meet me back in a tabletop position on your hands and your knees. We're going to practice our plank sequence for the week. Every week we have a new plank sequence. So we're going to try it together now before we tie it into our practice so we can make things a little more smoothly as we go through. So we're starting in a tabletop position. Even if you've done plank 1,000 times, we're going to spread our fingers nice and wide and distribute the weight evenly on your hands. Press into the pads of the fingers, the top of the palm and the base. Then step 1 foot back at a time on the balls of the feet. Heels are in line with hips, are in line with shoulders. Lose the curve in the low back. Draw the belly in, lift away from the mat. Turn on your thighs, your glutes, your core, your shoulders, and we're gonna hold here. Then lower the knees back down to the mat. Same thing, engage your body, step back into plank. Then we're gonna lock our body into place. Whole body is gonna stay solid, just like a plank. We're gonna find some movement with just the feet and the toes, using our toes to rock the body forward just a few inches, and then we'll come back. Practice that, rocking forward and back. Body stays nice and still like a plank. Our feet and our toes are finding the movement. Drop the knees down to the mat. So that's gonna be our sequence today. Nice and easy. We're gonna rock forwards and back, forwards and back. Nice and slow, 4 times in a row. After the 4th time, we're gonna take a forearm plank. You can just watch me. Same thing with alignment. We're gonna hold for 5 seconds and then we'll lower down and take the practice from here. Let's make our way to standing to start. We're in a tabletop position. Lift up to the tips of the fingers. Extend your right leg behind you. Point through the toes. Exhale, tabletop crunch. Knee to chest around the spine. Step the foot into lunge. Left toes tuck onto the mat. Lift that knee into the air, lifting up to pointer and middle finger. Drawing belly in, sending chest forward. Step up to half lift. Feet are hips width distance apart. Hands are at the shins. Spine is long. Gaze is down towards the floor. Chest is parallel with the floor, lengthening the spine. Light engagement in the core. Lower to forward fold by gently bending the knees, hinging forward at the hips to drop ribs towards the thighs. Let arms and crown of head reach towards the floor. If legs are really tight, bend those knees a little more. If belly and ribs are very far from the thighs, bend those knees a bit more. Whether the knees are bent or not, low belly is drawing in, hips are reaching towards the ceiling, keeping those legs nice and active. Head hangs heavy, shake it yes and no a few times. Then tuck your chin in towards your chest, and 1 vertebrae at a time will round our spines up to a standing position. Chin comes up from the chest last. Nice and slow, take your time, use your core. Once you're in standing, stand nice and tall at the top of your mat. Relax your shoulders down your back. Slowly lift both arms overhead, gaze up towards the ceiling. Bring the hands together, lower them down through heart center, and hinge forward into forward fold. Bending knees, dropping ribs to thighs, arms and head hang towards the floor. Rise, half lift, flatten your back, hands to shins. Step back into a plank position, and we'll start our sequence in 3, 2, 1. Rock forwards and back, forward, and back. Twice more. 3 and 4. Forearm plank for 5, 4, 3, 2, and release. Tops of feet to mat, hands under shoulders, elbow space up towards the ceiling. Press your hips into the mat, lift the chest off the mat, using the strength of your core, gaze is up, baby cobra. Then press to child's pose, hips to heels. Slowly rise back to a tabletop position and lift up to the tips of your fingers. Extend your left leg behind you, point through the toes. Exhale, tabletop crunch, knee to chest. Lift that knee nice and high, far away from the mat as you can. Step the foot into lunge. Right toes tuck onto the mat, lift that knee, lift up to tips of the fingers, thin chest forward, engage your core. Step up to half lift, hands to shins, back is flat, draw shoulders away from the ears. Lower forward fold, drop the ribs to the thighs, reach the crown of the head towards the floor. Tuck your chin in towards your chest, one vertebrae at a time. We'll rise up to standing. Slowly lift the arms overhead, one more time. Hands come down through heart center. We'll lower to forward fold, ribs to thighs, arms hang heavy. Rise half lift, flatten your back. Step back into a plank position. And we'll start our sequence in 3, 2, 1. Forward, back, forward, and back. Number 3, number 4. Meet me in forearm plank and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, and release. Tops of feet to mat, hands under shoulders. Deep breath into the nose, lift the chest, baby cobra, core is engaged. Exhale, child's pose, hips to heels. Let's keep those heart rates up. Rise right back to tabletop, lift up to the tips of your fingers. Extend your right leg behind you, point through the toes. Exhale, tabletop crunch, knee to chest. Step the foot into lunge. Step up to half lift, lift the knee, hands to shins. Lower to forward fold, ribs meet the thighs. Don't be afraid to bend the knees. And slowly round your spine up to standing. Bring your right arm up towards the ceiling, reach to the tips of the fingers. Take the pointer finger and thumb on the opposite hand. Wrap it around the raised wrist. Find some length, extending right arm towards the ceiling, and find a slight side bend over to the left. Core is engaged, chin is lifted from the chest. Then we'll rise back to standing, releasing the wrist. Both arms are up towards the ceiling. Then lower to forward folds, belly meets the thighs. Rise half lift, flatten your back. Step your right foot back into a lunge position, bringing the tips of your fingers to the floor. Forward knee is stacked right over the ankle. Walk your hands over to the right side of your mat, turning your feet to face that side of the mat as well. If the legs are tight, the knees can be bent. You might be in sort of a squat position. Otherwise, legs are straight, hips are over the heels. Everyone's spine is nice and long, core is engaged. Firmly plant your feet to the floor. Bring your hands to your hips, engage your core, then slowly rise up to standing. Position your feet so you're standing firmly on outer and inner ball and outer and inner heel. Turn the toes away from one another. Heels should be in the same line. Then slowly bend the knees into goddess pose, stacking them over the ankles, sending hips down towards the floor. Opening the hips, lengthening the spine. So core work here is totally optional. You can stay here, focus on your breath, opening the hips. Otherwise, if you like the challenge, we're lifting our arms to shoulder height. And we're gonna find a side bend, side to side. Elbow comes down, core is engaged. As we find the side bend, side to side, belly draws closer to the spine, the more we find the side bend. We're holding here for another 5 seconds or so, strengthening the legs and the glutes. You can straighten the legs if you need a little bit of an ease. Then everyone bring your hands to your hips if they're not there already and straighten the legs. Turn the toes to face forward. Hinge forward from the hips, bringing fingertips to the mat. Knees can bend if they need to. Walk the hands back to lunge. Left foot turns forward, hands frame the forward foot. We're on the ball of the back foot. Step back into a plank position and we'll start our sequence in 3, 2, 1. Forward, back, forward, back, 3, and 4. Take forearm plank and hold for 5. Don't hold the breath. Take a quick peek back at your alignment. Hips, heels, shoulders, then lower to the floor. Deep breath in through the nose, baby cobra, chest lifts. And exhale to your rest position, hips to heels. We'll take a short rest here. Find the breath. Filling up the sides and the back side of the body. Slowly rise back to tabletop and lift up to the tips of your fingers. Extend your left leg behind you, point through the toes. Exhale, tabletop crunch, knee to chest around the spine. Inhale, extend the leg again. 2 more times. Exhale, knee to chest. Inhale, leg extends. Exhale, knee to chest, hold here. Don't hold the breath. Lift that knee a little bit higher. Now step the foot into lunge. Step up to half lift. Knee lifts, feet together, hands to shins. Lower forward fold, ribs reach down towards the thighs. Slowly round the spine, up to a standing position. Once you make it up to standing, stand nice and tall. Bring left arm up to the ceiling, reach to the tips of the fingers. Opposite hand comes up, thumb and pointer finger wrap around the wrist. Help you find some length, engage your core, and fall into side bend. Chin lifts from chest, belly is pressing towards the spine. Breathing into chest. Then we'll rise up to standing, release the hands, and lower to forward fold, belly meets the thighs. Rise half lift. Step your left foot back into a lunge position and hold here. Walk over to the left side of your mat, turning the feet forward, lengthening the spine. Knees can bend if they need to. Firmly root your feet to the mat. Slight bend in the knees to engage the thighs and bring your hands to your hips. Engage your core and slowly rise up to standing. Again, firmly plant your feet to the mat and turn the toes away from one another. On your next exhale, knees bend into goddess pose, hips send down towards the floor. We're holding here. Pressing firmly into inner and outer ball and inner and outer heel. Sometimes in this pose, we have the tendency to fall towards one side or the other. If you're taking the core work, lift the arms up at shoulder height and join me in some side bends. Core is engaged, belly draws into the spine. Exhaling on the side bend, inhaling to rise. Another 5 seconds or so here. Everyone bring hands to hips if they're not there already and rise to standing. Turn the toes forward, then hinge forward from the hips. Bring your fingertips down to the floor and walk into lunge. Right foot turns forward, hands frame the foot, left heel lifts off the mat. Step back to a plank position and we'll start our sequence in 3, 2, 1. Forward, back, 2, back, 3, back, last 1, forearm plank, and we hold for 5. Slowly lower down to the mat. Deep breath into the nose, baby cobra, chest lifts. Exhale, child's pose, hips to heels. Take a breather here. Rise up to tabletop. Swing your feet off to one side of the mat. Bring your hips down to the floor to come into seated. Let the legs extend forward. Shimmy yourself so you're sitting in the center of your mat. Find some length through the spine, placing hands on either sides of the hip. Flex the feet. You can gently bend the knees if the legs feel tight. Take a few breaths here, lengthening the spine. Then relax into a more neutral position. Bend both knees, planting your feet on the mat. Keep your hands on the back side of your thighs. Send your chest forward towards the thighs. Draw the belly in. Balancing on our sits bones, not our tailbone. Lift up to the tippy toes. Walk the feet in a little closer to the body. Then lift the feet off the mat. Heels in line with the knees. Still in the sits bones, not the tailbone. Chest stays lifted. We're holding here. Boat pose or Navasana. If you'd like to challenge your balance, add more work for your core, release your hands out to your sides, palms face up towards the sky. Chest stays lifted, spine stays long, core is engaged. Then we'll release, placing our feet down to the mat, placing our hands onto the mat, slightly behind the hips, fingers facing towards the feet. Separate the feet to about mat width distance apart. Press into your feet and your hands, lifting the hips up to reverse plank, lifting chin from the chest, stretching the front side of the body and the shoulders. And then we'll slowly bring our hips back down to the mat. Hands return to the back of the thighs. Then as if you've been punched in the gut, we'll hollow out our core, round our spine, keep our core engaged as we slowly lower down to the mat. Take a few breaths here. Separate your arms out, nice and wide. Take up some space. Help to open the front of the chest. Arriving at our cool down, starting to slow down our movement. Slowly let the knees fall to the right side of the mat. Slowly lift them back up to the ceiling. Let them fall over to the left. Keep repeating this movement nice and slow. Knees fall side to side. And find stillness with the knees facing up towards the ceiling, feet flat. Lift the feet off the mat, lining your knees up above your hips. Heels are in line with the knees. Hands are along the sides of the body, palms face down to the floor. Press your low back into the mat, drop your belly flat towards the mat. Nice and slow, we're gonna lower the right toes down to the mat, keeping low back flat to the mat. then lift the knee back in line with the left. Same thing, opposite side, nice, slow and controlled, keeping the low back pressed to the floor. Then we lift the toes back up. The slower you go, the more you're asking the core to work. As we slowly lower right toes down and lift. Keep it going, left toes come down and up. One more time, right toes down. Keep back, flat to the mat. Left toes down and up. Return your feet to the mat. Bend the elbows, fingertips facing up towards the ceiling. Press into the upper arms and the feet, lifting the hips off the mat into bridge pose, lifting chin from the chest, holding here, knees stay lined up over the ankles. And we'll slowly lower hips down to the mat. Draw both knees in towards your chest, holding below the knee or on the back side of the thighs. Helping to release the low back. And gently rock side to side. Feet return to the mat. Right leg extends up towards the ceiling. Cross the ankle into figure four, crossing it over the left knee. If you look down at your legs, it should look like an upside down four. Last little bit of hip opening here, allowing the knee and the hip to fall open. If you're looking for a little more sensation in the hips, you can float the left foot off the mat. Heels stay in line with the knees. You can thread the hand through to hold on to the back side of the thigh. And slowly release, returning both feet to the mat. Left leg extends up towards the ceiling, crossing the ankle into figure four, allowing the hip to fall open. And optional to float right foot off the mat. Gently return both feet to the mat. Knees draw back in towards the chest. Place your arms out on the floor, shoulder height, palms face up to the ceiling. Knees slowly fall to the right side of the mat into recline spinal twist, and head turns to the left. Our last pose before a final resting pose. Start to relax the muscles in the face. Relax the brow, the jaw. Maybe eyes closed as we're preparing ourselves for a bit of stillness. Slowly draw the knees back to the center of your chest before letting them fall over to the left side of the mat and turning head to the right. Slowly draw the knees back to the center of the chest, drawing the thighs close to the body. Slowly lift your head to meet your knees. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold the breath at the top. Squeeze the body nice and tight into a tiny little ball. Then as you exhale out through your mouth, let go of the body so that you can lay flat on your mat into final resting pose. Spread the legs and arms nice and wide. Take up as much space as you can. Eyes are closed and palms are face up towards the ceiling. Take one deep breath in through the nose, and as you exhale out through the mouth, melt onto your mat. Let everything go. Bring your attention to your breath. Follow every inhale and every exhale. Keep your focus on the little movements the body makes as you draw breath in and as you press breath out. Allowing the repetitiveness of the breath to move you deeper into relaxation. The focus has wandered from your breath. Draw the attention back to the inhale and the exhale. Slowly start to deepen your breath. Slowly start to wiggle your fingers and start to wiggle your toes. Welcome movement back to the body. And gently roll over to the right side of your body and take a moment of stillness on your side. And use your arm to support your head like a pillow. Keeping the eyes closed or your gaze lowered to the floor, slowly press yourself up into any comfortable seated position. As always, to finish class, we'll take 3 cleansing breaths together as one. That's breathing in through the nose and exhaling out through the mouth. Today we'll add movement to our breath. On the exhale, we'll round the spine, drop chin to chest. On the inhale, we'll lift and arch the spine and tilt our head up towards the sky. So that we're all together, let's exhale and around the spine, pressing all the breath we have out of the body, dropping chin to chest. Breathing in through the nose, nice, slow and deep as you lift and arch the spine, tilting head up. Exhale out through the mouth, rounding spine, chin to chest. Breathing in through the nose for 2, lifting and arching. Breath in. Exhale, round the spine, chin to chest. Breathing in for 3, nice deep breath, chest lifts. Exhale, spine rounds, chin to chest. Take a second to thank yourself for taking the time for this practice, and I'd like to thank you for letting me lead you. There is a light that exists within me that honors and respects the light that exists within each and every one of you. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the class. There is a new version of this class that is aired every Sunday. If you're looking for something a little easier on your body, I teach a Vinyasa style yoga class, structured much like this class without all the core work, that is aired every Thursday. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I hope to see you next week. Thanks again.